Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on what part of the world you're joining us from. Welcome to an amazing session hosted by a friend here, Christian Pavelli from We Are No Code. Christian is going to be telling you guys how to build a company all with AI. And it's going to be an amazing session. I'm personally really looking forward to this. Christian, as always, thank you so much for your kindness and spending your support of the program and spending time with us. Folks, please stay on mute. We will have somebody here. We will have a Q&A session towards the end of the session. So, and I'll let Christian, take over from this point on. And definitely, this is going to be a great one. So if you're looking to build a company, if you're thinking about launching something else and you may not have the technical expertise to do it, this is going to be an amazing session to learn how you can do that. There's a lot of amazing technology available today. And Christian is a master at using tools like AI to build all kinds of great. So every time I wake up, he's like, I just launched this new thing. So it's pretty amazing. And with that, Christian, please take the floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Payman, Alex, the whole team. It's also a pleasure to come in and speak to the founders. Heads up, it's not going to be that great. I hope it's going to, I know that everyone will walk away with something super valuable today. So that's what I'm most interested in. And yeah, I put on this presentation for thousands of people at this point. Every time it changes because, every time the technologies changes, but my North Star is always being to help people, specifically non-technical people, launch and scale businesses. And so that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about today, how to build and scale your business with AI. And this is really a guide for non-technical entrepreneurs. And it really starts with this one quote that everyone here has already heard. Basically, it's the founder and CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, saying, AI will soon make it possible for one person to build a billion-dollar company. And in this presentation, I'm going to show you exactly what he means and exactly the kind of tools that you can use to do that. Here's a quick example of a profitable AI app that I built in 48 hours. And people are like, 48 hours? It's like, yeah, I did the idea generation, I did the offer creation, I built the app, I got first sales, and I got 500 people on a wait list and got some acquisition offers for this. The name of it is Outer View, and it basically really facilitates the creation of research behind podcast guests so that someone who's running a podcast can really have that in seconds. But that's the hook. What are we actually going to learn in today's session? Well, the main goal for me is going to be to teach you how to leverage these AI tools to build software and to automate your business all without coding at all. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, but I literally don't know how to code a single line of code, and still till today. Then I'm going to talk about the common mistakes that lead a lot of founders to failure and how you can avoid them. Man, one of the biggest takeaways is half of building startups is not making the mistakes of thousands of people before you. If you could just take that route, you're already like 50% more likely to succeed. And I've learned the hard way. So, and then at the end of this, I'll be talking about kind of the step-by-step to go from, hey, I have this kind of idea to actually building it and launching it from scratch without any technical skills. So, but first of all, who am I? Let me give you a little bit of background. I'm Christian. I'm currently the founder of We Are No Code. I've built 3 startups. I'm about to launch my 4th SaaS business in a couple months here. And yeah, I've had the luck to both raise money for some of those startups and take the kind of high growth route for some of them. I've also failed startups and, so I've gone through the ups and downs, but I was also the director of a startup accelerator program based here in Los Angeles, through which I trained more than 100 founders who went on to raise more than 50 million in funding and got into accelerators that invest like Y Combinator, Techstars, 500 startups, etc. I've also been the guest speaker at some prestigious universities, Princeton, UCLA, USC, Pepperdine, Loyola LMU, probably easier to say it that way. And finally, I'm a content creator. I kind of fell into this by building startups and realizing that building a personal brand was a great idea. And I now have 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. 15,000 on LinkedIn. I was also a member of their first Accelerator for creators. And yeah, I'm partnered with lots of different brands, dozens of brands here, a couple of big names. Yeah, but you know, things were really not that great for me when I started my journey. And so I literally just don't think that I'm special, and I don't think that it was luck either. But basically, what brought me to We Are No Code was when I was running this program, right? So I would train, you know, about 8 to 10 teams every 6 months. We'd put them on stage at Google and have a demo day. They'd pitch about 100 to 150 investors. So this was us at Google on stage after the pitches. And I realized through that process that everything was broken. And the way I found that out was by going through about 1,200 applications to select these teams, and just realizing that the majority of teams that I was reviewing, they had already spent like 30 to 100 grand, and usually 1 to 3 years of their life, and they had no products or terrible products, and they had no customers. And that was linked to two main things, especially for the early stage. I know that some people here are already sort of Series A. Trust me, in this presentation, we'll also be talking about great value for you people looking to scale. But the number one problem when we get kickstarted is really not knowing how to start. So what this looks like is basically always the same thing. We're reading lots of books, you know, watching lots of videos, trying to piece together the internet to figure out how to build this startup thing, this idea that we have. And we're oftentimes working on lots of feel-good tasks like designing logos, coming up with a perfect name, starting legal entities, you know, business plans, all this planning. And yeah, always busy. This was me. It was like, I have 1,000 things to do and I'm doing all of them. Terrible idea, because in the end of the day, it really stagnates you from seeing real progress. And oftentimes people just spend a lot of time, specifically me, doing all the wrong things early on. Why? Because we, you know, learned it that way, because we were sold this dream of Silicon Valley. And even worse, lots of people just get stuck in analysis paralysis. They don't even know how to get started. So this was really frustrating to me. The second big problem was basically the non-technical problem, right? You don't know how to code. As Mark Andreessen says, he's the managing director of Andreessen Horowitz, which is the biggest investment firm in Silicon Valley. Every business is a software business. Probably not the first time you hear this either, but it's really, really important, because what's happening is that in a world where every business requires technical skills or, you know, some sort of software, most founders, and I say most because 99.7% of the world does not know how to code, we're taking these three paths. And these are the three paths that I've seen over and over and over and over again. And when I start speaking to founders, it just happens to be always a different variation of these three stories. Story number one: hire expensive programmers. You find the best programmers. You have lots of money on the side because you're working a great job. You're a high, you know, high net worth, ambitious sort of employee. Spend $30,000 to $100,000. Then product creep comes in. Oh, we had not discussed this feature. Oh, I want this adapted. Oh, I need to now change this. Run out of money. And this is really frustrating to me, because it seems that there's just so many situations in which people have to spend all of their savings put towards a very high risk opportunity that unfortunately they find themselves kind of ransom to programmers. And I've seen that. I'll give you more examples of this in a second, but this is just really not a good path. First of all, because not everyone can afford this, but second of all, because usually there's a iterative process to finding product market fit that gets lost in this, let's just build what I have in my mind kind of thing. Now, the second thing is, okay, well, I don't have, you know, 30 to 100 grand. So the next thing is hire cheap programmers. There are two cases I see over and over. One, offshore developers. Two is student developers. Every single time it's the same thing: spaghetti code. It's basically long meetings, back and forth. And okay, there are situations, I've maybe seen a couple of projects that have actually managed to pull something together this way, but it's so unfair how many end up kind of with buggy products that don't work. And then they basically, yeah, only spent $5,000 to $10,000, but it's wasted. And this is a really frustrating path too, because oftentimes it comes with hundreds of meetings where it's just like, you know, oh, but I told you like this. Oh, but you built it like that. And there's kind of this miscommunication that happens as well. And finally, this is the find a tech co-founder route. Go to a bunch of startup events, meet 100 people, endless networking, and it's very difficult to find a perfect match. And if you don't find the right match, it's also the main reason for companies failing is sort of internal problems between founders. And so all of these paths just don't really work that well. And it kind of leaves most people who are non-technical in this situation. Frustrated, like, how am I going to get this going? And that's why we started We Are No Code, basically. It was really targeting individuals who, oh, look, two different colors. It's basically an online school where we work really hands-on with entrepreneurs to help them build out their products and learn the skills that allow them to be empowered in their businesses. So our main goal is to democratize entrepreneurship for non-technical founders. And we've now trained a bunch of founders, including Heidi. She built an MVP with us in 8 weeks. Now she's, you know, she got to 25K MRR. Then I introduced her to Techstars. She got in. She's now raised $3 million and has $10 million in the pipeline. Great success story of someone who looked to take the high growth startup path. She built a platform called Aware Health that helps people with their neck pains, joint pains. Turns out it's a huge expense for self-insured employers. And she was able to solve that problem for B2B companies. And this is her with her co-founder in Techstars. Another example is Mike. He was running an agency and had this idea for an app. He was literally about to go back to computer science, to do another degree in computer science, just to learn how to build an app. And so I intercepted him. Now he's launched his app and he scaled his business from 8K to 50K, leveraging the tools I'm about to talk to you about. This is his app, Liquidella. It's basically for financial literacy and education for the Latino market. And then this is a third example, small, medium business owner, Gavin. He basically had a t-shirt business, was kind of starting to get burnt out, had made some money with it, but was looking to kind of productize his service and transform into a SaaS business. And he was able to do that with SEPs within the same industry that he was already in, charging customers thousands of dollars a month in recurring revenue. And now we've trained, you know, more than 600 founders. I haven't changed this slide, in 23 different countries. I think now it's 24. But anyway, enough about us. It's just to kind of let you know that like this is possible. It's not just a pipe dream. It's not tomorrow, although tomorrow it's going to continue to improve. It's what's happening right now. And I really want to talk about a shift that's happened in the startup world that's leaving a lot of founders kind of in the water. And it is that investors stopped investing in ideas. Sure, you may know this, but this graph really illustrates it. In 2016, 9% of deals, investment deals, were going towards startups that had revenue. By 2019, 67% of the deals that were like being invested were going towards companies that were generating revenue. And today, if we look at that red line, we're pretty much talking about like 90, maybe 95% of all deals going towards revenue generating companies. Not I have a product, not I've done some validation, revenue. And revenue usually over a 3 to 6 month period. So what does this actually mean? It means that people like yourselves, entrepreneurs like me, we need to get further with our products before we can be ready for investment. And the great thing is that Peachscore gives you that amazing score to see when you're ready for investors, because we'll talk about that. But one big mistake is going after investors too early or when you're not ready. It's simply going to be a lot of wasted time. But anyway, we have to go further. We have to do the search phase, testing, validating, you know, starting everything up, the build phase, build, you know, first a website, a brand, then build your MVP. And then we need to actually sell. And guess what? The responsibility of paying all those bills falls on no other than yours truly. And that's why we need to be incredibly smart, right? So don't give up hope. I see some people in the chat here who have frowny faces. This isn't me telling you, you know, give up on your dreams. To the contrary, AI and no-code tools are literally making it the best moment right now ever. And when I say right now, I mean like maybe a month and a half ago, it wasn't even the same conversation. So I'm super excited to show you some of these technologies and to make you understand how you can take responsibility of your own journey and take control. Because I think this is what this is really about. It's about empowering, really. And empowering for me means like having control ultimately, right? Anyway, I know that I was frustrated with this when I was a non-technical founder, still am, but no code is the first technology. Let's talk a little bit about what it is. Some of you are probably quite familiar with this technology. It's been around for a while. It's what made me start this company. And it was just the ability to build websites and apps with drag and drop tools, basically. So, drag, drop, point, click, create logic in plain English, these beautiful interfaces. Some of them look a little bit like this one. This is Webflow, which is basically a website and CMS builder. Others are more sort of geared towards mobile app building. So this is Adalo, for example, but very similar concepts. You design like you are inside of PowerPoint, and then you add logic like you're inside of Excel. And I'll tell you why you probably don't want to use either of those two tools ever again in your life. So what can you actually build? Well, lots of things. I'll just give you some examples. Social networks. You can build things like marketplaces, two-sided, split payments. You can build all sorts of content websites behind paywalls. You can build, productivity apps or tools, internal tools. You can build mobile apps. You can build CRMs, client portals, communities. You can literally build so many different things. And what's quite funny is that people didn't used to take no code very seriously. And for those of you who think it's a joke, well, this guy, generated $3 million with a platform built with no code. This team raised $10 million with a product fully built with no code. They still are no code. This company also generates $2.7 million a year leveraging no code platforms. And yeah, it's literally empowering the 99.7% I talked about earlier. So I would definitely take this serious, and they are drag and drop tools. Now, let's take one step higher here. Let's talk a little bit about AI, because obviously AI is powering a lot of these no-code apps, but also AI is allowing founders to do a huge number of things these days. AI can literally help you do things like building products, help you designing, can help you copywriting, it can help you automate systems, it can help you sell, it can help you market, it can help you research, it can help you cook dinner, it can help you sleep your kids. No, actually, these last two are just on my wish list. I really hope that my 6-month-old can finally get out of a sleep regression. I'm dying over here. Send help. But no, it's really incredible what you can do these days with the power of AI. And the problem, I think, is that you can do too many things and there are too many tools. So I'm going to narrow this presentation down to not talking about everything, but talking about maybe the most important things for the promise that I gave you, which is build startup from scratch, scale startup to the moon. And these are starting with AI coding. So let me see if I can click. There you go, AI coding. So there are really two avenues here that I saw develop over the past maybe 2-3 years. A lot of you are probably familiar with tools like Cursor, Copilots, essentially. Those oftentimes are a little bit too technical for people who are non-technical. It's becoming a lot easier to build within them. But there are two things happening in the AI coding space. One are no-code tools, drag and drop tools that allow you to now leverage AI to move quicker. A good example of that is Reloom. Reloom basically is a platform that allows you to describe what you're trying to build specifically for a website. Then it's going to transform that immediately into a sitemap with all the sections. Each section has a different prompt. Then from there, if you, in just literally the click of a button, you just click on wireframe and it builds out the entire wireframe. And then from the wireframe, you can switch out the elements, and then you can push that wireframe, that's being built out. And by the way, it builds out all the copy as well behind this wireframe. You can adapt every section as well. And then you can even push that into a no-code builder where all the code is generated behind it. And now you can start drag and dropping. And so I'm just going to illustrate here the code behind it. You can download all the code as well. So, you know, sometimes people are worried about like vendor lock-in. I do hear someone's sound here, if you could go on mute. And yeah, it allows you to literally build from complete scratch websites and have full control. And I think this is the kind of technology that is going to be so, so powerful, is this idea that no-code tools can integrate AI to be able to give you a very quick building experience, but then also more control. And this is the direction that everything is taking right now. Now, on the other side, we have a whole other approach, which is straight up AI building, right? Platforms, you come in and there are a handful of them that allow you to just prompt based and build, not just build, design, copyright, deploy, attach to backends. So it would look something like this. I'd come in, I would just put in a tool. I'm going to showcase some examples in just a little second, but you know, put in a prompt, boom, it starts coding. And then when it's finished coding, it basically pumps out the first version of and then you continue to adapt from there. So there are a number of platforms now that allow you to do that. And I say over the past 2 months, these platforms have now gotten to the point at which I am starting to teach them as part of what we do. In fact, I'll tell you about a boot camp that we're putting on, the first of its kind. But basically, yeah, you can build entire web apps leveraging only like prompts. Now, the important thing to understand here is that understanding the fundamentals behind what's happening does become important. You don't need to learn how to code, but you can literally do so many things. And a good example of this is a platform I just built called One Task. It was just a fun project, built it in a couple of hours, and it's a full web app. You can log in. I'll showcase it to you in just a second. In fact, let me maybe do that right now. Why not? Instead of just talking, I'm just blabbing here. Let me know if you guys are getting bored. But I have a lot to show you here. So if you don't have a glass of water or some caffeine in front of you, I highly recommend that to keep up with my pace, you're going to need it. Let me stop sharing here for a second and maybe share a different screen. There you go. Is this, am I actually in the, give me a second here. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So this is One Task, basically. Fancy little animations you see there. Sign up. I'm going to create a different email to sign up. Excellent. Once I have, oh, I need to sign up. Sorry for that. Okay, random email, sign up. Excellent. Now I want to sign in. So basically what this does is that it allows me to set a goal. And so here I basically feed it a goal at first. It breaks that goal with AI into all the different parts. And this is because I had already set a goal for myself into all of these different things. So here it was learn how to play the guitar. It broke everything down into 30-minute tasks I can do every day. And when I finish a task, it crosses it out. And then on my dashboard, I basically just have an experience where, you know, I have the details of this task also created with AI. And then as soon as they're done, I can just mark as complete. And then the next day I can come back, I can see my progress. I have a progress bar. And this is a very simple example, but I literally built this in like an hour and a half. And this is only prompt based. It has a backend, it has real authentication. It doesn't have a payment connection, but I could easily connect payments to this too through Stripe. And yeah, this is real. Like this is not just, you know, oh, doable. Another example was this that I built called Get Job. It was just a fun project as well. And it basically transforms if you grab your resume and upload it, and then you also grab a job description from LinkedIn, it basically rebuilds your resume. It doesn't change what's on your resume. It readapts it to fit the job description that you're applying for. And so this leverages AI, and I can talk a little bit more about how this works, but this was fully built with AI. That's it, just AI. There's also this one, which is a fancy website that I built out. This is probably one of the videos that people like the most on my YouTube channel, with 3D, 3D animations, all of this with the animations as well. Everything's built with without coding at all. And yeah, it's just basically starts to showcase that you can actually do amazing things. Now, let me quickly revert back to the presentation so I can now share my screen again to continue with the presentation. But software development with AI is literally happening now, and it is very, very exciting. It also has, benefits and downsides to it, but it is the cutting edge. It's literally the moment I've been waiting for the past 30 years, because I'm not a coder. I always had this feeling like I wish I had jumped on the AI coding bandwagon when, the coding bandwagon, 30 years ago. And, today there's this new opportunity. Now, don't worry, for those of you who are coders out there, it's not going to replace you as long as you're a high-level good coder. There's always going to be plenty of work to be done, but this is definitely, this should make mediocre programmers very scared. Now let's continue the presentation here. Let me see. So yeah, that's for real. Now that's the first technology, AI coding. Now, once you've built something and you have some level of product market fit, you have some paying customers, the next big technology I want to talk about is AI automation. Now, this is a huge opportunity, and this is something that for business owners, along with startups who are like in the pre-series A, kind of raised the first round, but like now need to do more with less, man, AI automation will just bring your time back. What are automations? So basically, there are a series of modules that connect to each other. They have a trigger. So it's like, when this happens, then it starts. And then it has an output, usually. Here, I actually brought up the job description automation that I have that's working behind the software build that I told you. I actually chose, because it was a more complex backend workflow, to build this as an automation. And so what it does is that when someone uploads this information, it falls into my database. When it falls there, the webhook gets triggered, and it sends that information to OpenAI. Then it converts the PDF to text with Dumpling AI. Then it's going to grab that job description. It's going to download the details of that job description. Then we create the resume. So it's basically a series of different steps that one after the other have different roles. I even here have the optimizer. So first it creates the resume, but then I want an editor, a special editor. And each one of these have basically their own prompts with a different role that does a different thing. So you can imagine that like the end of this is like, okay, now we convert back to PDF, and now you have your resume. But when you look at what that opens up as possibilities, it's crazy. And I'm going to talk about this in just a second, but like AI automation is a whole other thing that we've been, working with some of our clients on, and it's just transforming businesses basically. Now, behind a lot of this automation, we have usually some kind of a database. Airtable is one of the ones that I use. A lot of you might be using that as a spreadsheet. It's basically a much better version than Google Sheets, and 1,000 times better than XLS or Excel. And yeah, a lot of the triggers and a lot of the data, once it gets it happens inside of these. And honestly, we've been helping people convert their messy spreadsheets into connected systems with automations. And man, it's just like half your business is on autopilot. So what kind of things are we talking about? Well, here are some great examples that I love and that people are using often, and we help them implement. One is sales call to pitch presentation. Oftentimes you're on the sales call and that's this whole process, but there's just so much of that you can basically automate, right? The next one is, and this is what I use for content creation. It's like I talk into Slack, just an audio, and then it basically like creates from that like an optimized LinkedIn post that's trained on successful posts. So it's basically, I just speak into like my thing, like, hey, could you create a post about this, that, the other? And then, it's going to pump out a first version. Then I can grab that, adapt the little fine tunes, and then I can like post it. This is another one that like I love: meeting to meeting summary to Trello tasks. So it's basically like you have these meetings, and oftentimes, well, I try not to ever have meetings, to be honest. Send me a Loom video, please. But you have a meeting, let's say, and then you want that summarized, and then you want the action items to actually become tasks in your Trello. You can automate all of that. Or you can, oh, this is one I like. So I get a lot of sponsors who hit me up because I have subscribers on YouTube. And so I have an AI that monitors my emails. When it finds an email with specific keywords, identifies that it's coming from a sponsor, or a paid partnership, or it's trained on certain keywords. It can extract that data and then send it to a spreadsheet where I can neatly keep all of the list of people who've reached out to me, because I usually ignore those emails, but I like to, from time to time, go and like check out, okay, what are they, what is this company? Does it fit the kind of stuff I want to talk about? If it does, then we can talk. If not, then probably not. And then my favorite one is someone fills out a lead. You research that lead information, a form. You research that lead information. You generate a proposal automatically, send them a personalized email, stalk them on social media, download their wedding pictures, and edit your CEO into them. This is the best way to get customers. This is a joke, guys. But I just want to illustrate that like you can build really crazy stuff, and you probably don't want to have your be sending people leads like pictures with your CEO in it, but the number of things that can be done are crazy. And this is really the second part. The second big part of this is like automate your business, right? So this is once you have product market fit and you have processes that kind of work. Now we want to start automating these so we can take our time out of those things to start building other things. And so automating your business is the second step to building a one-person billion-dollar company. And by the way, a one-person billion-dollar company is still kind of lonely. So you might still want to, have some people around. Anyway, third step, and this is taking it even one step further, are AI agents. Now you're like, wait, you just talked about AI automation. Like, what do you mean AI agents? It is different. It is different, my friends. Most of you probably picture AI agents like these beautiful sci-fi figures here. The truth, and unfortunately, this is the less sexy version of what an AI agent actually looks like. Basically, it is a highly trained and autonomous employee. So let's talk about what that actually means, right? Well, there are a couple things. First of all, like what are the differences, right? The first one is that AI automations are fixed workflows, whereas AI agents are autonomous. They interpret context of what's happening. They're able to plan actions, and they're then able to self-improve based on feedback they're taking from the actions. So think of it like some people in your business, they just need to be doing specific things. Don't allow them to, like think for themselves. But then there's other scenarios in which you want them to be able to think for themselves, right? You want them to have that intelligence at the end of it. And that's kind of the big difference. The other thing is adaptability. This is kind of comes down to like the learning and self-improvement. AI agents are adaptable. And whereas like AI automations are a little bit more repetitive, right? And then we're talking about AI agents taking on some of these more complex tasks where you have to understand the context, interpret it. Then, that's what we're really using AI agents for. And, basically AI agents are going to be a huge part of the future of workforce. It's pretty terrifying. But yeah, I mean, I'm seeing job descriptions right now where literally it's like only apply if you are an AI agent or someone who has built an AI agent. And so let's talk about some examples of what that might look like. Well, these might be virtual assistants that have to do more complex, sort of tasks. So let's say they can book a meeting with you, but only if someone passes a specific criteria based on a conversation that virtual assistant has had with that person. Could also be things like customer support. We all know that people are kind of used to this being a little bit more on the chatbots. but think of a chatbot that just gets smarter and smarter and smarter as it goes along. Also, marketing agents, content creation. I'm using this a lot. Marketing in general, creating funnels. Agents can help you fine tune some of the work you're doing in terms of copywriting. Sales agents as well. You can literally have people like take inbound calls. So like if someone is on the I wouldn't do outbound, like cold outbound calls, but like if someone's on your website and they want to talk to an AI agent to get some answers to their questions by speaking to it, they can trigger basically a call agent that can just pick up the phone and answer their questions, probably better than most people at your company. Like sometimes I joke that these are like even better at me in answering some of the questions about my own business, because you can feed it live like data. You can literally feed it a dynamic data, like an order, let's say, and you haven't tracked the status of that order as the founder. So someone asks you, "Oh, what's up with my order?" Well, this agent can just like be like, "Oh yeah, it's arriving." It's like, "Here's your tracking number. It's arriving in like 28 minutes to the next port." I don't know. It's really crazy. Anyway, data analytics, research assistant. Oh, let me maybe take a little second here to go back. But really, these AI agents are going to be the future of your workforce. And one thing that's starting to happen now it's even crazier. It's basically agentic AI agents. And I don't want you to get a headache from this, because I definitely do when I look at it for about 5 minutes. But they learn, they get feedback, they adapt, they're able to integrate and operate within other systems that are built in ways where these agents can actually operate. And this is literally the third big step. It's the ability to build your workforce. So people are like, "You're not going to get replaced by AI. You're going to get replaced by someone who learns AI." It's like, yeah, but you're also going to get replaced by AI. So let's not beat around the bush. This is happening, and it's happening right now. And these are the three main factors that are leading to this quote, is that you can now build, you can now scale, and you can have a fully autonomous workforce working for you. And that's the way that you're able to deliver a product or service to a huge number of people with very few people involved. And all of that is absolutely amazing, right? It's fascinating. Christian, wow, you've blown our mind. I'm going to go and play with 1,000 tools. Well, this actually leads to the next segment here, which is talking about mistakes. And I want to talk about some of the most important mistakes I see. And it always starts with this when it comes to building out or implementing AI in your business. Excuse me. Trying too many tools. Man, all of us are guilty of this. Every single one of us here. If you're not, please tell me. I'll send you an award and I'll take you out for lunch. All of us have tried so many tools. And when you look back, there are potentially one or two of those hundreds of tools that you're actually using. And the problem with trying all of these different tools, and I know that you have to try them before you use them, is that it creates overload. And it creates the problem of endless possibilities instead of what should I actually be building? You shouldn't be using everything that's great. Everyone looks at a technology and thinks of, how can I use this technology in my business to improve it? Instead, what they should be thinking is like, what in my business takes a lot of time, and then go the opposite route. And this is what we teach founders all the time. It's like, basically like, you need to understand and figure out, like, focus is literally the gold of this generation. It's like, so understanding what to focus on next as the startup founder, and then finding maybe one tool that helps you with that next step is a lot more valuable than trying out all these amazing things and then trying to figure out how they fit into your business. Why? Because this actually brings most people back to analysis paralysis phase. All these different tools, my God, like, what should I even be using anymore? And it's a real problem. Like I'm like a kid in a candy store because I get to talk about these on YouTube. But like, man, like, it is such a distraction when it comes to like building your business to know there are so many options out there. And so oftentimes it's just a big mistake to just get caught in the loop of like discovering new tool, oh cool, playing around with it, signing up for the subscription, starting to do that thing, half going into it and kind of like, oh, okay, cool, that's cool, I'll use it when I need it. It is literally one of the biggest time sucks that exists. Now, the second side of this is also picking the wrong tools. If you pick the wrong tools, that can literally lead you to months lost, thousands of dollars wasted, and having to rebuild the entire thing. And I've seen this happen time and time again with founders, especially when it comes to building their app, right? Sure, the MVP you build is usually always going to be rebuilt. There's literally no billion-dollar company that still has the same MVP, and didn't have to rebuild the entire stack. And so that's fine, but if you select the wrong tools, that can have some pretty bad consequences. And usually there are like three tools. There are three tools that can get you 80% of where you need to go. And so that's where I'm kind of becoming a minimalist when it comes to the tools that I use. And everyone needs to figure out the minimum viable stack for what they're trying to accomplish based on the phase that they're at. And that will change. You literally have to be a different founder when you're going from idea to built product than when you go from product to scaling out. Anyway, mistake number 2. This was what we talked about earlier, trying to raise money without revenue. This guy, he knows it. This quote is from 2010, and it's getting worse and worse. You're just, and literally, I'll give you an example of, when I was running the Startup Accelerator, this founder, she was awesome. Such a great founder, such great connections, had come from like the financial world and had crushed it. And now she was building her own startup. So she had all these high level connections, literally sat in the room with some of the biggest investors in the world. But investors don't care about your startup until you have revenue. And proof of concept, validation is great. But these days, unfortunately, as we discussed earlier, you need to go further. So it's not a good avenue to just go out there. And frankly, every second that you're fundraising is a second you're not focused on operations. So be very, very clear and careful on when you switch from operations to fundraising, because usually you're a small team and the founder or CEO will most likely need 75% of their effort into poured into fundraising when they're doing that. And the worst part is that these investors want you to continue growing the company throughout from the moment they start talking to you till the moment that they close a round with you. So you also need to continue going with operations. So you better have your stuff figured out before approaching investors. And when you do, it's beautiful. Literally, once you hit all those criteria on Peachscore, you go out there, and fundraising is no longer pitching yourself. It's almost like having them line up to see, if they're going to be a good fit for you. It just changes the dynamic. There are two types of founders: the ones who chase investment and the ones who the investors chase after. Be the latter. Mistake number 3. This comes down to the 3 flawed approaches, and I already covered them earlier on the presentation, so I won't go too far into that. But oftentimes, what happens here is that we are trying to outsource our problem. And these days, let's face it, every single startup, every single business has a technical side to it. So this mistake, instead of being hiring programmers, it's actually more about not having control, accepting that you don't have control. It's really about leaving the technical things for the coders and techies. It's the thing that you're avoiding. It's a thing that you're avoiding and you can't avoid any longer. There are no more techie and non-techie founders. There's only founders who are going to kill it and founders who are going to wait around until someone comes to save them. And unfortunately, one thing that I've learned, and at least this didn't happen to me, no one is coming to save you. No one. You're going to save yourself. You're going to get great support as you do. And that's super important, definitely. But you need to understand that you need to take responsibility for this part. You need to start learning some of these tools, and they are not technical. It's the best time, guys. Anyway, I feel like I'm lecturing now. But there is also this big elephant in the room that we haven't yet talked about, and it's going to transition us into the next section. And that is that there is a much bigger threat to your startup right now, especially if you're in the earlier phase. And that threat, my friends, is that most startups fail because no one uses their product. In fact, 90% of startups fail. And the main reason for that is that they ran out of money. And this, my friends, is a big excuse for we didn't find product market fit before we ran out of money. So basically, it's no market need. The second one, you could just combine both of these. It's like, sure, you ran out of money, but like, you ran out of money because you weren't able to find product market fit and died as you were trying. So I kind of use this one as an excuse. Sure, maybe, you have lots of expenses, but for the most part, no market need is the biggest mistake, and building products that people don't like is the biggest, or don't use, or are not willing to pay for, is one of the biggest threat to your company, full stop. And sometimes even if you have product market fit, you can lose it. Which leads us to this great quote from Steve Blank. He is the godfather of startup methodology. Build it and they will come is not a strategy, it's a prayer. So please do not be the person who is siloed business, building a product. A product is not enough. The bottom line is that an app is not a business. Your product is not the business. The outcome is the business. So how do you actually build a business with no code and AI? Let me break down the starting steps around doing this. And don't worry, I'm sure you guys have lots of questions. I haven't checked the chat because I'm kind of in between a couple screens here. But yeah, make sure to write those out inside the chat room. But let's break it down real simple, right? You've probably heard of the lean methodology. This is just how to apply some of these tools to that. Step number one, customer discovery. We need to talk to customers and talk to them not about our products, but to ask them questions about their life that surround what our product is trying to solve for. Here, what we're trying to do is write a questionnaire. Then we want to do personalized outreach, where we're basically asking people if they could give us a little bit of time. We're trying to solve a problem, and we know that they have lots of experience in this field. Again, if you talk about your product, this shifts from a discovery call to a pitch. And that's the biggest mistake most founders make, so don't make it. Then you hold these, and trust me, you talk to a couple of people who you think would want to buy this product, and the feedback you start getting dramatically changes the what you're actually going to build. So then we can use platforms like Zoom. I love it because I can record all my transcripts, have my AI assistant inside that meeting, who can then help me take notes, organize those notes, analyze them as well. You can just dump all of this inside of AI tools to be able to do the job for you. And here I usually use ChatGPT 3.0 Mini for all the analysis. I'll use Otter AI or Firefly for like the note taking. And then Zoom, well, I don't have to explain that to you guys. Now, step two, we kind of are starting to understand what people need, but now we need to actually start building a brand around it. Now, I have kind of like some cheat codes now on doing this, but you basically need to come up with a name and logo, determine your value proposition, like what's the actual offer? Like, what is the offer? The outcome, again, what's the promise? Let's start with a promise. Not the, oh, we have all these features. This can do all these things. It's like, no one cares. Then we need to find the illustrations. We need to find some icons. We need to find usually photography. We need to do some copywriting. And the beauty is we have lots of AI tools for this. Even Fiverr just released like a logo maker that's pretty decent. And you can use things like Midjourney if you want for logos. Usually I'll go to Namecheap to look for names because I also am looking at like what the domain is. Determine the value proposition. Again, this is really outcome based. And oftentimes what I'll do here is that I'll grab my ideal customer profile. So I'll write out like who I think my perfect customer is. I'll be like, hey, here's who I think my ideal customer is to ChatGPT, and then tell it, could you please create this into a detailed ICP, ideal customer profile? It creates all of the details about that ICP, and then I'm going to feed that, and then I'm like, here's what I think my offer is. Now, can you please, outline the structure of my landing page? And then, trust me, it starts giving you good outputs. Now, let's keep going. You've created a brand. Now we need to build a smoke test. Now, the smoke test is basically a glorified landing page. We're going to choose a no-code or AI tool. I usually now would build it with either a very simple no-code tool or an AI builder. Build the structure that we talked about earlier in terms of the offer. There's usually the same structure over and over. Then determine the CTA, like what are we trying to test here, right? We want to test that there is actual demand, right? So if you just, if you have like a fake download button for an app, that actually, if someone clicks on it, it's like, oh, there's actually, that shows someone's actually potentially interested in downloading it, right? Versus like check out the app, or like, get on the wait list. I do create wait lists, but oftentimes I like to test like demand early on. Like, the best validation is revenue, but there are lots of call to actions that we can have, like that show us there's actual demand, not just, add yourself to the landing page. Usually what I'll do is a strong call to action. When they click on that, we're currently under construction and about to launch, and we're launching soon. Sign up for the wait list on the second page. And so that's how I capture emails, but also test the real demand, So that could be a fake buy button. Oh, we don't have stock. We're currently creating the next batch. It could be, a design version of the app that leads to try it now. So you have to figure out which one is the best for you. Then add copy and content, pretty straightforward. Attach to the domain, go live. Here, I'd recommend either using Card for a very basic landing page. You can also use like some of the AI builders that I was showing earlier. One of them would be Bolt, another one would be Lovable. Also, like literally every single email marketing tool has a landing page builder. So don't overcomplicate things. Step 4, tracking the analytics, clarity. Here, what we want to do is just set it up. And then what we want to do is understand like where people are clicking. Are people misunderstanding this? Are they even scrolling down? Are they not? Like, we can't measure. We can't manage what we can't measure. I love that quote. And so we want to have a basic idea of what people are doing on our landing page, and also inside our products once we build out web apps. Then we want to learn based on that. You can get like literally like full like step-by-step what people are doing when they hit your landing page inside of Clarity. Full story is another one. Google Analytics is kind of overkill for early stage, but it can be useful later. So you just attach, you literally just grab the code from Clarity, it's free by Microsoft, and you dump it in the header of your landing page. And it's going to be able to track every movement that's happening on it. And then when you get, let's say, 100 people, it gives you these beautiful like site maps with like, you can basically heat maps, sorry, where you can see where people are clicking, where people are getting lost, how far down they scroll. And that's kind of a really good way to optimize your landing page. Step 5. Now we're ready to go out there and sell. We have an offer. We haven't even built the full product yet, but we go out there and sell. Why? Because we actually need to make sure that there's demand, and the demand lines up more with our at this point, we kind of know what we want to build already, but we need to line up people to buy it even before, so that we can make sure that we're building exactly the right thing for them. So here we're going to determine the ideal customer is. Usually a mistake I see founders make is like they think it's going to be one customer and that they have these specific needs, and they're just mistaken, which is okay. So I would actually usually start off with 3 ideal customer profiles, and then go and through the customer discovery interviews, start narrowing down on one specific problem. And then once you find that ideal problem, the next big thing is going to be to test, are these people willing to, is my business model going to work? We know who the individual is, we know what their problem is, but if I solve this problem, are they willing to pay? And that's going to be the ultimate validation for your startup. Anyway, targeted outreach. This usually I leverage LinkedIn, and then I'm building a tool right now. My SaaS is basically all about enriching and writing AI, highly personalized messages and deploying them at scale. But basically, you can get a lot of information around the target audience. So build a list, enrich the list, and then create an outreach that you do automatically, but not just like a one-size-fits-all, like highly personalized and only targeting people who actually fit your ICP. So if it's a business in B2B that does customer, let's say like snacks that have between 100 and 1,000 employees, then let's just go after those. And you can be wrong about who that is, no problem. We'll be able to adjust and go after a different profile. Then we need this part is super important, and it comes back to a quote. It's like understanding the objections of your ideal customer profile is the quickest way to sell to them. Early on, as a startup founder, you have to do things that don't scale to figure out the things that do. And objections are literally the reason why someone would land on the landing page and not buy your product, because they have specific questions and they have specific reservations that come back over and over and that stop them from buying. So learning these objections by actually doing the selling is so important to fine-tuning your messaging and your offer. and then just keep improving it. That's it. You just need to learn from each pitch. Probably you'll get ignored the first 10 pitches. You probably won't sell anything for the first 10 sales, 100 sales maybe. Keep fine tuning it. Step 6, build your MVP. Here, my rule of thumb is just figure out what the value is. When you're selling a trip to Bali, people are buying themselves on a beach having the cocktail. Don't tell me about the plane tickets or the line or the immigration or no, tell me about the value. Tell me about the outcome. That's what I want. And then determine what that output actually is, right? If it is, for example, an analytics platform, it's going to be like a report that allows a manager to make decisions about specific things in their business. That's all they care about. They don't care about your fancy AI. They don't care about anything. They just care about that output. Then you determine what feature sets you need to create that output for them. And then we start selecting the tools. It's now we can start talking about AI tools, no-code tools that fits the bill. And finally, we're going to build the MVP. Now, just a reminder, we are not going to build the MVP like this top example where, if you're building a car, a wheel doesn't get you there quicker, half a car doesn't get you there quicker. It's only the final products and millions of dollars in R&D that gets you there quicker. First, we're going to build something that solves the problem. Okay, and not that great. Okay, this solves it a bit better. Okay, this solves it. Okay, now this solves it even more. And as you see, the products are getting more and more expensive, but every product solves the problem. Every product here is quicker than walking. And that's the way that you should be thinking about it. Most people, they build the current version of the Swiss Army knife, which has 10,000 blades, when actually the successful Swiss Army knife that we all know had one knife and a corkscrew and a bottle opener. That was what brought it to its billion-dollar success. So yeah, don't try to over engineer your products early on. Step 7, fulfill and iterate. This is the best part, right? You just deliver the product, get that money, and then you ask for feedback at all costs, basically. It's yeah, the money's good, but usually you give huge discounts. All you need is intense amounts of feedback so that you can actually build something, not that just solves the problem, but that people come back to, that people start getting addicted to. Stickiness is something people talk about often. And then guess what? The beauty is you don't have to guess the next features. You have paying customers who are happy, and you get to just take their accumulated feedback to determine the prioritized features for the next step. And this, my friends, I want to congratulate you for it. If you just take this approach, you're literally ahead of most founders. Now, the big problem is that there are lots of details in what I talked about that get frustrating. And so that's really why I started We Are No Code, was just getting in the nitty gritty. But today I have a really exciting announcement, and I'll just show you this next one, but I'll probably change the screen share, is that we are putting together the first ever AI coding bootcamp that brings together the most cutting edge tool. When I say that, okay, here's the cheat code that I used for this bootcamp. I have 200,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. That was my opener to get all of these people to answer me. And basically, I confirmed every single one of the members that I was looking for. So here, our goal is to help you build your MVP in 30 days with AI coding, to learn all the fundamentals of coding with AI, and to get that product out there. So let me quickly kind of switch over. It starts in March, by the way. So for the next 15 days, applications are open. They'll be closing on the 20 something. I should probably know this. Underneath it, Paymon, if you could drop the link specifically for the Peachscore members, because that link, my friends, will give you priority over other people applying for the program. It is application based. We do want to make sure we're only working with people where we, share their mission. We believe that it's doable, and yeah. So you go through a little bit of an application process, but I think Paymon will put the link below. Let me quickly stop sharing here and start sharing my other screen here so I can kind of show you this. Okay, let's see. Is this am I on the landing page here? Or I believe I am. Okay, yes, I think I am on the landing page here. Excellent. So this yes, you guessed it, it was also built with AI, is basically, here are the partners. We're bringing in Replit, Bolt, Lovable, Supabase is a backend, Netlify is a deployment platform. We also have Reloom. This is really to teach founders, specifically geared towards non-technical people, how to build their products with AI. Because trust me, once you learn this process, you will be, like me, pumping out your MVPs in days. And, you know, in a world where things change quickly, jumping on opportunities quickly is super important. So what do you get as part of the program? Let me just cover this, and we're just about to hop into the Q&A. We have personalized strategy sessions with each founder. I'm personally involved with every single founder in the cohort. We're only accepting 25 teams. And we're actually going to break down exactly what you should build, and helping you figure out the tools required for that. Then one-on-one coaching to help you build that out. We also have learning sessions where each one of these tools are coming in and teaching you the best way to use the tool itself. We're going to be covering all the foundations of building with AI. We also have building sessions. So as you're actually building, we're going to be helping you implement, the things that you need. And we also have a huge discount package, and we're going to do speed networking. So I won't go too far into it, but you can check out the landing page that Payman put inside the chat. It's for both entrepreneurs and small medium business owners. Here, usually we're talking about people looking to build internal tools to basically like operation, like client portals, productivity tools. We often see that that's very valuable. And then entrepreneurs is launch your MVP. We have people who have done this because we already have a program that teaches this, but we do it more on a one-on-one coaching format. And then there are two tiers basically for this. One which comes with all of the support, as in like one-on-one coaching and all that. It also has a feature on my YouTube channel, which basically I'm going to be featuring people who successfully build. It also comes with a built guarantee. So like it's your MVP built or your money back. And then we have the traditional bootcamp one, and either one of these plans is going to be amazing. This is actually not a bootcamp that we're planning on doing ever again. For us, it doesn't make sense, but right now we wanted to kickstart this with, partnered with the best platforms out there, and we're literally the only people in the world who have ever pulled this off. So I'm very proud of it, and if you want to apply, you can check it out. I guess one last thing before we hop into the Q&A is that, some of you who are past the MVP phase might feel a little bit, like we've been ignoring you. We also have another program that if you're interested, you can message me. And this one is basically for small, medium business owners. And it's really about, automating their business operations, leveraging AI automation and AI agents. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely, shoot me a line. Payman, feel free to share my contact details as well with the teams. No problem at all. And yeah, the main goal that I think you should set for yourself is like, take responsibility. Like, regardless of what, startup that you are starting, take responsibility. And if you consider yourself a non-technical person, then just take responsibility for some of the technical parts of building your startup. It's what's going to empower you, not just for this startup, but basically for every startup moving forward. And it's really what's going to allow you to break through. Because guess what? You only have to be right once. That's a thing I love about entrepreneurship. The first time I had a success story, it allowed me to, build on top of that. And that's usually where it all starts off. But the start is the hardest part. It really is. That first successful startup is the hardest one to hit. And so equipping yourself with the skills is the best way to do it. So in conclusion, you could either be this guy who's, frustrated, or girl sitting around waiting for people to save them, feeling constantly frustrated, not able to take action and always depending on others, or you can become a super saiyan and leverage the power of automation, AI, and no code in your favor. I promise you, you do not have to be technical. Till today, I do not know how to read code, and I do not know how to write code. And I've been doing just fine. So thanks so much for participating today, and thanks for the opportunity, Payman. I'll open up for questions now if people want to ask.
Thank you. Thank you, Christian. Amazing, amazing information. In fact, a lot of stuff that you spoke about, we talk about during our office hours. So with that, everybody, please raise your hand. I'll call upon you in order. And while you guys are doing that, I'm going to read some of the questions that came into chat for Christian.
Oh, let me check out the chat too then.
So yeah, so we had a question as you were talking about the different tools. So who owns the source code when you use AI tools to generate a product?
You own everything, and you can download that folder, and it is amazing. People are
Yep.
usually worried about that, even with no-code tools. But the truth is that the ability to quickly adapt that is what's best. So like, sure, you have subscriptions, but in all of these no-code tools as well, like you actually own the product, the IP. But yeah, I mean, people kind of get worried about the code stuff, but it's like oftentimes they have bigger worries to worry about.
Okay.
But yeah, with AI coding, you can just download your like folders, everything. Um, Also, these platforms download the dependencies as well, which is crazy for those of you who understand what that even means.
All right, next one. These are great, but how good are the privacy and security? What are the limitations of where you have to actually understand the code base?
Yeah, great question. So that's one of the things is that, yeah, you do need to understand some of the technical concepts behind what you're doing in the longer term. Not in building a first product, but that's also why in this boot camp, what we were focused on was like not just helping people build the product, but also like understanding the fundamentals so they know sort of how to do it. Now, in terms of security, there is very good security usually because you are depending on giants behind you, right? So Supabase, which is the database where basically that's being used behind a lot of these AI coders, it's actually HIPAA compliant even. So it really like abides to very high standards when it comes to cybersecurity. And yeah, the other thing that people like underestimate, they're like, oh, but what about cybersecurity? It's like, well, when you're building an MVP in general and you hire a programmer to build that MVP, like it's not like you have like a team, like it's not like he is implementing all of these huge security measures behind the app. He's like focused a little more on the features because you're usually on with a smaller budget. So usually using some of these tools allows you to kind of like, I guess, ride on the shoulder of giants is the best expression that I could use. But yeah, there are definitely some things you have to be thinking about.
I don't know if you have a list of this. Someone's asking, Colin's asking if you could share the links to the specific tools that you talked about.
Oh yeah, I'm actually putting together like a bit of a playbook for this. So I'll probably list out like in that playbook, I'll commit to sending that to you. Give me maybe like, a week or so. But yeah, happy to share.
And I'll share it on Slack. Thanks, Christian. Okay.
Awesome.
David's asking, are agents allowed in QuickBooks for bookkeeping entries? Very specific question.
Yeah, and I'll broaden that question a little bit more in saying that anything that has is built as an API or has endpoints, usually that includes most things. Yes, absolutely, you can tap into them. The question is, what kind of information can you get back usually? But there's a huge number of things that you can do, and definitely people are connecting with QuickBooks.
Yep. Okay, when you were talking about feedback, Naya's asking, what's a good size pool for beta testers for an MVP?
That's a really good question. The way that I think about this is not really thinking about a launch, right? Like, don't think of this launch as like a glorious thing. Like, think of it as like as soon as you have something that you think is okay, start putting it in front of people and start. The way that I like doing it most is actually like get them on a call, be like, hey, I can give you a little demo, and then you just put the tool in their hand and ask them like, hey, could you, like go ahead and use this in front of me, because the problem is that it's very hard to get feedback. But once you're on a call and you kind of put it in their hands and be like, hey, could you speak as you're like going through this and like reason with me? I'll usually open up about like 5 spots where I'll be very involved for the first set. Then I'll probably go back and improve a couple little things that need fixing if things are like, usually things start breaking at that point. I mean, just, I say that, but like, they don't have to. But there's usually going to be some fine tuning that I want to do. And then I'll probably open it up to another like 20 to 30 again, expecting mainly to get feedback from those individuals. Then as soon as I've done that, so that's just closed beta. After that, I'll probably come up with an offer to be able to try to get people over the pay gap, like to validate my business model, because you ignore that long enough and you are in trouble, my friend. So I'll usually try to get a couple of people to pay for a highly reduced rate, and then to see the kind of customer satisfaction and start guiding my like product adaptations based on the feedback from paying customers versus people who are trying it and just like, oh, this is cool. Because ultimately, that's what's going to guide us towards scalable revenue in the longer term. And yeah, so that's what I would say. Like probably start with like a couple and be very involved, then a small pool of people, and then start slowly and slowly opening it up more. And you're going to discover things throughout those, that iterative launch, I guess, or that closed beta that will also determine the size of the next pool, as well as what that next step is, right? If you have lots of people using something, it's like, great, let's validate the business model ASAP, because that's a big risk.
Absolutely. Okay, next one. Is it prudent to use AI tools with proprietary logic trees?
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah, David, you want to elaborate on your question, David, or?
Oh, sure.
You could, yeah, you could just repeat the question. I just kind of didn't.
Oh, using AI tools with proprietary logic trees. And I know where this question.
Okay, so I do need a little expand there, David.
David company. Go ahead, David.
So we have developed a radical we're developing a mathematical just a sec. I have to put in my speech device.
No problem, man.
We're developing the mathematical logic, and it drives our entire system. It's patentable. Logic trees. Should that be inputted into a no-code tool?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, if it's built as an API where there's endpoints that we can communicate with, it can be like tapped in via either API or through automation. So those kind of function similarly. The only difference is that like API is back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like constantly synced, and automation is basically one way and then back, right? So with kind of conditional logic trees, I would say that it's probably one of the nodes inside of an automation. And yeah, it could be super valuable depending on what it does. A similar example would be like conditional forms, which is probably a more basic version of what you're talking about. Conditional forms, that might be one. So it's like someone, they reach a certain point, and maybe then after, they filled out a form in a certain way, it's going to bring them down a different path, right? So yes, absolutely, you can.
You can you can use it with a logic air gap, sort of, really, right?
Yeah, again, as long as it has an endpoint, we can interact with it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, next one. I think you touched on this already. Regina is asking, who's the one-on-one coaching with in your program? I think you do.
Yeah. It's with a random person that I met one day, and I'm like, nah, this guy's okay. No, we actually only have two coaches, which is why we've limited it. One is my lead coach, and the other one is my senior coach. Yeah, and these people are focused, like they're kind of aliens because they need to know no-code tools, AI tools, automation, and agents. So yeah, I've picked them with great care to answer your question. And I'm also involved with all of the scoping, because even before we jump in the building, if we get the scoping wrong, it's going to be a mess. So I'm like really probably should take myself out of that portion of the process, but it's also what I love doing. So.
Okay, we got 3 more on chat, and then we'll go to the people. Actually, Matt is racist. Okay. Next on chat, any recommendation for getting paid customers before the product is live?
Oh, do I have recommendations? Yes. The number one way that people get customers in general before a launch is usually through direct outreach, meaning usually it's kind of like cold/warm outreach to the right ICP that we have. So that basically looks like what I was talking about earlier. It's like it's a three-phase process when we're using AI. And this is actually what I'm going to be launching very soon. But it's like the first thing is like build a list. When we talk about building a list, we're looking for a couple of things. Do they fit the general criteria? Great. But then is there actual intent? Like, can we find signals that show that there's intent? So for the example, of the tool for resume building that I showed you earlier, I actually was like, how am I going to get first customers for this? It's so quickly. I actually went on LinkedIn and I found events where they were putting on workshops on how to improve your resume. If someone shows up to one of those, you know they're looking for a job and looking to improve their resume. So they're showing pretty high intent. So the first method is to really find high intent buyers and to grab their LinkedIn profile URL. And you can do that in a number of different ways. You can do it with the free version through filters. You can also do it through the paid version. Now, once you have that list, you're going to want to enrich that list, meaning get more information about these individuals. Why? Well, so that you can reach them, and also so that you can do what's most important with outreach is make it highly personalized and not feel like AI. And so that's where, I'm happy to give people access because we already have, the first version of the product out. But basically, you upload those leads, you enrich them. You can grab all the information from their LinkedIn profile. You can find their email. You can find their phone number. You can test that their email is the correct email by verification. And then what you do with all the information you have is to, basically write highly personalized messages that don't sound like an AI. And then you can grab those and manually send them, or you can plug them into a sequencer. Anyway, the bottom line is the two best ways to get customers at the very early stages would be one, direct outreach, which for me is the best because you actually get direct feedback as well. And the second one would be through like ads, highly targeted ads there. I would really think of that money as like out the window. It's just for testing, but you can test different specific segments. And so, Facebook is probably a good place for that because you can segment very, very specifically on LinkedIn. There's an argument to say you can use LinkedIn, even though that's a bit more expensive. But yeah, the methods you're going to use to get your first 100 customers, which is like the first 100 customer methodology of startup, like of building companies, is like going to be quite different than the next phase, which is product channel fit, meaning you are determining the right distribution channel to reach the ideal customer profile or prospect at scale. But in that first phase, you're learning so much about this specific customer. And that information is going to allow you to create a killer offer, a killer product, and know how to talk to that person in a way that other competitors are not.
Amazing. One last one here. Is the code that's generated, is it patentable?
Yeah, I mean, code in general is not really patentable. If you look at all the largest companies out there, you'll more patent like a process than code itself. It's very difficult to defend in court. So you have like thousands of lawsuits between all these big tech companies that they're never able to like actually, help, like basically like have stand up in court or defend in court. So I wouldn't be too worried about patenting. It's often something where it's like, I see it all the time. It's like, I want to protect my idea. It's like, again, that is not your biggest problem right now. But yeah, no, code is kind of difficult to patent. So you might want to, if you really need to patent it, it's like maybe focus on trying to patent the process. I found that is more effective. But yeah, it is patentable as much as code is.
Yeah, and as much as you can afford to defend it.
Exactly. I mean, I literally know a patent that a buddy of mine owns that is like one of like Facebook's main features. It's like he's not trying to defend that patent. But what, you're gonna go against Facebook? Good luck.
All right. So Matt's been super patient. Matt, go ahead and ask your question, and then I'll go back to chat.
Sure. Hey, Christian.
What's up?
I want to I've got a product idea, and it involves connecting to an API. And it sounds like, or it looks like, obviously we can connect to an API because I saw your flow for the resume one. And you're obviously connecting to some sort of OpenAI or ChatGPT API and feeding things into there and then getting a response. So I understand that, but I'm not sure, like, okay, so did these tools that you are using, do they have like some sort of already pre-built integration to these APIs, and like you have to choose tool, and you have to choose an API that's in that list? Um so that's kind of like the first part of my question, and then like to make it more specific, like for example, I want to connect to Instagram's API. So someone logs into my web app with their Instagram, and I want to read like and see if they are getting mentioned by certain accounts. And in order to do that, I need access to Instagram's API. So how would I build, like, in a thing where it's like pretty much all drag and drop, how would I use an API like Instagram's and like within my product? Is that even possible?
Yeah. So you're going to be limited to what Instagram allows you to fetch as data. But yeah, you can connect to their API, and you can do that either through direct integration. Some will have direct integration. Specifically, when we're talking about like certain automation tools have direct integration. If not, you might need one line of code to be written to connect to that API. But yeah, in general, it is 100% like possible. I would say with the AI builders, what they do is that they actually write out the routes, the API routes for you. And so you're like, I'm going to connect to, Instagram API. And then it's basically going to build out the route specifically to interact with Instagram. So yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then with automations, it's either there's a direct integration, or as I said, you can connect, with like one line of code. But even that line of code, I just basically I write it out with AI, and then it works.
I
So I
see.
don't even like ever, yeah. But yes, there's multiple ways in which you can connect depending on the kind of feature you're trying to do. So like my AI resume generator, for example, I was like, oh man, I could just do all this in one flow in automation. So it's perfect. In your case, potentially it needs to have that back and forth API connection. So we might have to do a direct API connection. So really depends on the use case, but in general, yes, it will be possible both with AI as well as with sort of direct integration with AI builders.
Yeah, because I would read through the documents and I was like, I don't understand any of this, honestly. So you're saying,
It's
so
an
the
edge
route,
function.
yeah,
That's what we
so the
call it.
route that you were talking about, is that kind of like the bridge between my inability to understand what these docs are saying?
Um,
So,
you can
but
actually just
yeah,
prompt. Yeah, you can just
okay.
like prompt. Now that's the big thing. A lot of the stuff we'll be teaching in the cohort is like how to properly prompt too, right? You
Hmm.
kind of need to. We're shifting from this world where you don't need to know how to code, but you need to know how to talk designer. You kind of need to know how to talk developer a little bit, and you need to understand some of the basic concepts behind it. So what you're describing is kind of like an edge function that would be using to be able to tap into an API
Hmm.
that would be happening between the database, in this case Supabase, and the API in question, which in this case would be Instagram. And then, there's a frontward facing experience where we're basically just showcasing that data. And that happens on the app or UI UX side of things, or front end.
Right. Okay. I think I had one last question. It was about connect. I'll let you know if I remember it.
No
Well,
problem.
so Matt, we can follow up with you afterwards. We got one last question on chat and we'll end the session. The last one is, we already have a web app with paid customers. Can we use no code to speed up the requirements, the new requirements?
Oh, absolutely. And usually that's going to be AI automation in your existing systems. So basically, yes, you can do so many different things. In that case, I think that probably depending on what you're trying to do or where you're at, it probably requires a conversation. And then to figure out, like, is this like a new product that interacts with the core product? Is this sort of additional features that we can add on with AI and automation, or maybe agents? pretty sure, a combination of both will work.
I agree. All right. With that, thank you so much, Christian, and everybody else who's still with us. Amazing, amazing session. Wrapping it up right at 1.5 hours. So thank you so much, Christian. So this session is recorded. It will be put on our platform later on for you to be able to access. And with that, I bid you all a wonderful rest of your day. Christian, thank you again. Really appreciate it. Amazing, amazing session. Everybody.
No problem. My pleasure.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Christian.
Bye. No problem.